So I think there is those good opportunities for people to come to France and to make a very good living being their own boss doing property management work.
So tell me a little bit about the services that you offer at Les Bons Voisins.
It's a whole range of services. If you imagine you buy a house in France, you're not using it all the time. Think of how you look after your own home. If you're not there, you obviously can't do that. So we offer the, property checks, cleaning, gardening, hedge cutting. It could be as simple as, like I said, a property check and doing your meter readings, to much more extensive. If you decide to rent out your home as a short-term tourist rental, we can help with that as well.
Okay, so a bit of everything.
Yeah, a large part of what we do is give second homeowners confidence that their home is being looked after, it's safe and secure when they're not there. So it means that they can sleep comfortably wherever they are until they can come back to their home in France.
Yeah, because that is a massive concern for people when you've got a second home and you're only there for a few months a year or 6 months a year.
Yeah, and it's nice for them when they come on holiday, the house is already prepared, it's cleaned, it's aired, it's warm, the garden's nice and ready to go.
Sounds perfect.
The pool's nice and clean and pretty, it's all ready, so their holiday can start the moment they arrive.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
That's actually a really good point to make, because I do remember this. My parents had a second home growing up, and whenever we would go over, we did everything ourselves, or rather my parents did. Yeah. And yes, the first week would be just tasks, and
we did exactly
kids
the
doing
same
weeding
thing
in the garden and parents doing it. So I can imagine that that's really nice to show up and just have it ready to go and enjoy.
Yeah, that is a large part of it for sure.
Okay. So what does a typical property inspection look like?
It ranges from property to property and client to client. Obviously, everything is slightly different. But a typical check will be, going through every room, checking for horrible things like signs of rodent infestations or any bodies on the floor, whether you got bugs in the shutters. So you would open the windows, open the shutters. Late summer, early winter, you get a lot of wasps and punais, the little stink bugs, coming in and trying to hide in the shutters. So clearing those out, making sure there's no leaks, making sure all the shutters are intact, making sure there's no damage to them, no one's tried to get into the property or anything else. Checking swimming pools, checking the garden for anything that needs work doing on there, and then again reporting back to the clients.
Meter readings.
Checking the post is a big thing as well.
Yeah, of course,
in case you get the different letters coming through from the local maries and things, they can be quite important sometimes. So it's all of that sort of stuff, and then just taking some photos of the property and sending those with a brief report back to the owner. Again, this is your property, it still looks lovely, all is well, and again, they want to be there, so it's nice for them to see photos and things, and nice to hear that it is all good, everything is well, everything's being looked after. Again, it's that comfort level, that confidence.
And sometimes it's about showing them what their garden looks like when something's in bloom and they never get to see it in bloom.
That's true. I never thought about that, but that's a nice little addition that you get to see it in all the seasons, even if you're not there.
So it can be pretty satisfying to do it. And a typical house check can take anything from half hour, 45 minutes up to an hour and a half or so, depending on the frequency and the size of the property and what you find and stuff. So it varies in time and varies in what you have to do there, but it's important to go around every room, look at every shutter,
gutterings,
all sorts of things. Gutterings and leaks outside. Sometimes you see a wet patch on the side of the wall, which means the gutter's leaking, and short term it's not a problem, but long term that can cause problems on the exterior wall and the interior. So if we can address that early, it saves the problem for later.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and it's something we don't think about with second homes all the time. All the little day-to-day jobs you do it in your own home. You forget about it, and then suddenly it's a big problem.
So it becomes a problem.
Yeah, that's really good. What's a common mistake that you see people making?
People assume that they can wait till they get to France before learning the language. I always say get on with it straight away, and don't just use the apps. Get the conversation going. Go to adult education classes, meet other people, have the conversations, listening, speaking.
That's good advice.
The more effort you put into learning the language, the more you get amalgamated into the countryside and into the people, and the more you get out of integration, and the more you get out of being in France. So it is very important.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. What's your favourite French food? I mean,
wine?
They're all great. Wine, I love that. Good answer, can't argue with that.
Jambon de Bayonne.
Very nice. What's the most embarrassing French language mistake that you've made?
I've certainly made plenty, but I think one of my favourites wasn't actually myself, I'm glad to say, but we had somebody that we know well who was in a very small, very rural French countryside campsite where you had to order the bread the night before, and they mistakenly asked for lapin instead of le pain. And the very and the very kind French local farmer went out early that next morning and shot 2 fresh rabbits for their breakfast rather than a nice fresh bread. So that was a little bit of a surprise for them.
Okay. That's one way to remember that.
Incredible service, though.
Exactly, you can't argue with that.
Pretty good.
Wow. Okay, if you could live anywhere in France, where would you live?
I personally think I'm living there already. We're down in the Gers in a beautiful town called Lectoure.
Very nice.
And we love it down there. We're lucky enough to have beautiful views, lovely weather and countryside.
It's the Tuscany of France.
Yeah.
How can I find a property to rent in France?
It is an interesting one, a tricky one, especially if you don't want to go into the 3-year rental market, because that's the long-term rentals. We're noticing that there's more of a demand for the kind of 3 months to 12 months rental. And that's where it is quite tricky, because a lot of the people, the second home owners that are willing to rent out to the short-term tourist market don't necessarily want to, or are reluctant to rent it out for a bit longer. But that's changing a bit, and more you'll find that some of them are willing to do the October to March rental. But the market's being a bit patchy for the short-term tourist rental. The regulations are tightening up, so some people are more open to thinking about having someone come in for 12 months, especially if they say, actually, you know what, let's go somewhere else instead of France this year. We always go to France because we've got the house in France, but if we can have someone rent it for a year, why not? So we've put feelers out across our network, and we were surprised at how many came back going, actually, I would think about it.
That's interesting, actually, to think that perhaps there are a lot of changes, obviously, to the short-term rental market this year, and that's been quite difficult, I think, for a lot of people renting their properties like that. But it's interesting that it might also provide an opportunity for people who do want to rent, that they might open up some properties for them to do that. And we definitely see people wanting to move to France, but they perhaps aren't quite ready to buy, and they want to rent for 6 months or a year. But like you say, they don't want to be renting long-term, not for 3 years or more.
It's a great way to understand the area and pin down exactly where you want to be.
I think where we can help is that it's something that we do ourselves, so we understand the contract and the lease agreement. Now, a lot of people don't always understand that actually it's not as stringent as the 3-year lease agreement. It's easier to get out of. On both sides, that is. So, it's a good opportunity at the moment because there's quite a demand for it. Is what I understand.
Well, that's good to know. What opportunities do people have to work in France?
Okay, I'll take this one. To be honest, when we thought about living in France, we wanted to be in this beautiful place, Gers, but finding a means of earning a living was challenging. And that's how we ultimately came up with the idea of property management. We actually took over a company of property management. So what we know and understand through our years of experience is that you actually can make a decent living out of becoming a property manager. What we like to say is you're in business for yourself, but you're not by yourself, because we're part of a network. And the visa process can seem quite daunting, but we help people with a business plan.
Okay.
And have been very successful in helping them achieve that.
Okay.
And once you're on the ground here, you're operating your own company. You're your own boss. You're working for yourself. You have the support. You may have the support of a property management network and stuff. So you've got a lot of experience that you can borrow into, a lot of encouragement and support throughout that, as well as all the support and everything is laid on for you in terms of the business registration and the templates you need for your business, the invoicing, everything else. Having that provided for you, it can save a lot of headache and heart and difficulty and time for you. But more importantly, I think that joining a larger company, it gives an awful lot. Your clients see a lot of trust in you because you're part of a bigger company. They think you're more long-term, maybe possibly more professional, rather than just someone who's setting up on their own and stuff. So I think being part of that network is quite a big thing. So I think there is very good opportunities for people to come to France and to make a very good living being their own boss, doing property management work.
Okay, and what would you say to somebody who's thinking about that as an option? Perhaps they're still in the UK and they're looking to move over, they'd like to work in France. Like, what is the opportunity for them with Les Bons Voisins?
We are always careful to make sure that people choose the place that they want to live in, and that is the dream ultimately.
Yeah.
And think a bit longer term. I mean, so many people say to us, I'm thinking of buying a property with a gîte complex attached to it so I can make a living out of gîtes. Whereas we say, okay, that's one way. There is another way where you don't have to put all of your capital into that kind of property. Instead, go a different route and have your privacy in your own home in the evenings. And I'd say another thing is do your research, do a lot of preparation. We handhold with people from anywhere to, a matter of months between contacting us and us bringing them into our network, to 5 years. We've had a team that took 5 years to come in, mainly because they were getting their financials right, their language skills right, and preparing along the way. As far as we're concerned, that's all fine. We're not going to put pressure on anyone. It's got to be right.
It's a huge decision that people take to move from the UK, come over here, start a new life in a new country with a new business. But it's definitely possible. It's definitely do it. Many people have done it before. And we're here to help lots of other people do the same thing. There's definitely very good opportunities. There's good money to be made. It's great fun work. It's very entertaining. You meet a lot of interesting people, and it's very satisfying. And particularly being your own boss, you can work to the levels that you want to work at. So there's a lot to be said.
Satisfying for me is I keep having to turn work away.
Okay. Well, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, there is a lot of work out there for sure.
Well, I think that's really reassuring for people, because I think it's a difficult one for people who are moving and perhaps can't bring the work that they do over to France to know, where do we go from here? We're not ready to retire yet, but we want to do something, but we're not quite sure what. And this provides a really great opportunity for them.
Yeah, we think so.
Some people in our network that have used us as a springboard to ultimately what they prefer to do.
Right, okay.
And some of that is that they've kind of developed other skills along the way, and it can be anything from doing your own craft and selling that online to teaching a foreign language, to being a reflexologist was another. And often if they come in as a team, husband and wife team, for example, sometimes they'll start off together, and it may evolve into only one of them doing property management and the other one doing something else. But as far as we're concerned, we're there to support them along the way and help them as much as we can, and help them get registered.
So if people are thinking of maybe doing this, whatever stage they're at, what's the next step? Should they reach out to you, chat to you about it?
We're always happy to have calls with people. Brilliant. Start off with emailing us, and then we can arrange to have a Zoom or a video call with them over a couple of hours and just talk everything through with them. We don't put pressure on people. We're here to help people, help to answer their questions and encourage them to come over as and when they want to. There's no time pressures. It's just, it works on different time scales for different people. But you have to start somewhere. somewhere, and we're happy to be part of that starting process and help people along.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.